This is the second generation Eljer signature wall hung toilet, introduced sometime around circa 2002 and was made up until the late 2000s, until Eljer was bought out by American Standard. Some people have mixed opinions on this type of toilet, and it really depends on who you talk to. Some say it's fine, others say it's terrible. But what do I think about it? Well, let's take a look at it. The overall design looks pretty standard until you get to the bottom part here, where this thing shows up. It's just a strange design, but you can tell those are the channels to feed the siphon jet and just the trapway outline. Trapway opening is pretty standard. It's got this interesting shape to it, and the rim jets are angled, which is a nice bonus. What I find most interesting is this part right here where the center part is blocked off, and that's because this is a front-fed siphon jet. You could tell by the bottom passages, as you can kind of see here. Let's take a look at a flush. Honestly, for the flush, it's pretty alright. On higher power, it can be pretty powerful. But it can also be pretty noisy as well, as you just heard. Now, one of the strange downsides of this toilet is its weird quality control. I wouldn't say it's outright terrible, but it really isn't too good. For one thing, the trapway opening designs can be different depending on which one you get. This is pretty standard, however, you'll find one that has a very weird deformed trapway, almost with a trapezoid-like shape instead of this shape right here. Now, those particular ones are the ones that cause all the problems, as you'll soon hear. Another weird quality control aspect is the angled rim jets. Sometimes they are a little angled out of the way and therefore can cause some weird splashing and just weird ball runs in general. While the ball runs isn't terrible by any means necessary, it is a little jank. Now, one of the strange problems the quality control brings is the pulling factor. I've heard from many that these things are common for shredding and all that kind of stuff. Now, personally, on this design, I've never experienced that, but the weird deformed trapezoid style ones are the ones I experienced the most problems with shredding. This particular design seems to be alright overall, but the other ones with the deformed ones tend to be the problem child. I haven't heard anything bad about performance, but overall it's alright. It's definitely better than the second generation floor-mounted Eljer signature, which was infamous for clogging. So, that's a credit I can give this, but it definitely could have been a little bit better. But at the same time, it could have been second gen Eljer signature floor-mounted styles of terrible, so we'll take what we can get, I guess. Now let's have a look at ball runs. Like I mentioned, the ball run seems okay, although there are some areas, as you can see with this one, that it kind of missed. There's a little bit of the top rim right over in this section that it missed, and I'm interested to see how the ball run is from this angle. Let's have a look. That's a strange design flash. You can see the channel passage right there kind of blocks the center part right there. That way, it has to go around it. The ball run is alright. It could be better though. And that is the second generation Eljer signature wall hung toilet. A very strange toilet that has very mixed reception. Overall, I think it's an okay toilet, although there are some aspects that I think could have been improved upon, like the quality control. But at the end of the day, it could have been the floor mounted version, which was absolutely awful. But let's grade it. The overall design of the second generation Eljer signature wall hung toilet is pretty standard. Minus the bottom part, which is just very weird looking. It's honestly kind of a funny design, but outside of that, I give it a 5. The quality control is pretty mixed overall. The quality control issues I really note the most are the way the rim jets are angled and set up, and some slight shredding issues. The shredding issues have been noted by many people, but I've noticed this more on the trapezoid-shaped versions. Meanwhile, the rim jets can sometimes be a little bit jank, causing some pretty odd ball runs sometimes. Not terrible, but could be better, especially considering that the rim jets are angled. Overall, I give it a 5. Consistency is pretty decent. However, I would like to note an odd version, the trapezoid-shaped ones. They are weird, and they are the problem childs. These are the ones that shred the most and just don't hold up as well. Besides that, consistency is not too bad, and I give it a 7. This thing has a 2.1/8" trapway. It doesn't look like it, but it does have one. The trapway layout itself is pretty standard, but hey, it works. I give it a 6. The flush is alright. I actually do like how this thing swirls, however I will mention that sometimes the flushes can be a little loud, which besides that, I don't really have much else to complain about. I give it a 6. The pulling factor is kind of mixed on most of these. Now, with the original versions, I don't really know them shredding that much unless they're on like lower pressure or lower flush volume. The short flushing ones, if you want to note. Overall, they don't pull too bad. However, the trapezoid-shaped ones are the ones that are known for shredding. Not as terrible as others, but still kind of a bad problem nonetheless for that particular design. Due to the mixed issues on how this thing pulls, I have to give it a 5 at most. Honestly, I don't ever note any performance issues with these. I don't ever really note these clogging all that much, and they seem to hold up fairly well for what they are. I wouldn't say completely perfect, but they seem to hold up fairly well. I have to give them a 7. I'm not gonna lie, the Bowens is kind of disappointing a little bit. Sure, they have angled ramjets, but due to how jank they are due to the quality control, I definitely think the Bowens is a little bit lacking. Some areas can get missed, and especially towards the front, which that middle part blocks the way. Not a very great design overall. I wouldn't say it's outright bad or anything, but considering that this has angled ramjets, it leaves a lot to be desired. I have to give the Bowens a 5. For the most part, I've seen these hold up fairly well, outside of the trapezoid-shaped ones. The regular ones, though, seem to hold up fairly well, but due to the problem child that is the trapezoid shape, at most I'll give them a 6. Now let's talk about the overall value of this toilet. Now granted, there are some problems like the weird quality control and kind of mixed spec shredding issues, mostly depending on which version you get, but overall this has a very interesting design compared to other toilets from the time, and that's something I like about them. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. There are some issues that kind of bring it down a little bit, and don't forget about the problem child. But besides that, they're fairly alright for their time. Granted, could they be better? Yes. But considering Eljer's output, this was one of the better executed things. Overall, I give it a 6. The final score of the second generation Eljer Signature Wall Hung toilet is a 58 out of 100. This is definitely one of the most interesting toilets that Eljer has made in the 2000s. Just the way it's designed and the way it's executed is very intriguing to me, and I don't know why. Is it perfect? No. But compared to Eljer's output at the time, this was somewhat one of the better toilets they made. Granted, they have a problem child that brings it down a little bit, but outside of that, this toilet's pretty interesting.